This is Linda and now Lerner, MoviesandShakers.com. Here's our interview with lead stunt driver on Ford v Ferrari, Robert Nagle. He's now working on Fast and Furious 9 in L.A. We got to ask questions about driving at close to 200 miles an hour with Christian Bale and Matt Damon, and also that scene to look for with Tracy Letts playing Henry Ford II, and what the realism that director James Mangold was going for in this riveting film.
Is the camera set up a certain way so it gets the shots that you need when you're doing the gear shifting, as opposed to just, taking the turns?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more specific shot for, what we would call an insert shot for that. That's a more specific setup for the shifting.
All right. Speaking of speed, how fast did you get those cars up and going for the film?
The highest speed we saw was about right around 180, 185 miles an hour.
Yeah. Is that the fastest you've ever done?
No.
Oh, what's the fastest?
Just under 200.
All right. Let's talk about perhaps one of the most dramatic scenes in the moment, speaking of speed, is when Tracy Letts took his ride. Can you tell us about the involvement with stunt drivers in that scene and how that one was shot and how many takes you took for that?
So that particular one was shot on a rig that we call the biscuit rig. And what we had was a GT40 mounted on the biscuit rig so that Matt and Tracy could do their acting. And I actually drove the rig for that particular scene. And I don't think we told Tracy we were going to spin the car at the end. Matt knew it was coming. Matt knew. And I don't think Tracy really knew the level of performance that we would get with the biscuit rig, meaning how well it handled. And so when you see these guys being thrown around in the vehicle, the physics of it, it's pretty extreme and really sells the point that, because they're actually in the vehicle. They just, they're not operating it, but the physics are real and everything's there.
Wow, and Tracy Letts was pretty accurate in his emotions that can be done.
Yeah, no, and he did a fantastic job. I mean,
how many takes did you do, or just that one?
I think we did. I think we did 3 takes, and obviously it was just stuff with Jim and actors giving notes and what he wanted. But yeah, I think we did 3 takes with that.
With Jim Mangold, you're talking about the director working with him.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Mr. Mangold.
And did Matt take great delight in springing this on Tracy?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Let's talk about your driving team. You had some pretty legendary names as stunt drivers on this team.
The breadth of talent that I was able to assemble, I think it really reflects that on screen.
So it's Derek Hill and Alex Gurney, is that right?
Yes, yeah, and I was very happy that we were able to cast Alex as his father, Dan Gurney, who had passed 6 months prior to us starting the film. And so it was very, very fitting that we were able to do that for him.
What was it like working with Christian Bale on this? Was he excited to get in there and do some driving himself?
Oh yeah, no, he was great. He loved it. Very enthusiastic, and by the way, has an amazing aptitude for this particularly. We spent a week with him. I took him out to Bob Bondurant's school in Arizona. For 2 reasons. One, it's a great training facility, the way Bob set it up, and the part B was I wanted him to meet Bob, who was obviously a big part of that era and development of the GT40 and racing and Le Mans and all of that. And so we spent a week out there. It was in the middle of summer, so blazing hot, and we would start at 7 in the morning. We'd finish around 1 or 2 in the afternoon when it was, sort of at its peak, and we're done because we're just exhausted from the heat. And I was hoping that he'd be able to, spend a couple hours with Bob. And what it turned into was a week's worth of sitting down with Bob at the end of each day for 4 or 5 hours every day and just talking about, the ins and outs of the GT40 and Le Mans. And the big surprise to me was that I didn't know is he was very close friends with Ken Miles. So there was a wealth of information that we were able to get, and it was a great and amazing experience. And to spend that time with Bob like that was just awesome.
Did any of that show up in the movie that you remember?
If it showed up, I think it was just, I think it helped Christian get a different perspective of who Ken was, and then hearing directly from, somebody from that era and driving those cars and running that race, just getting that perspective. And I think that does show.
What did James Mangold ask for that, specifically in certain scenes that he wanted to see?
He was just all about, let's make it as real as possible. He wanted the realism. He wanted that feel. And there's certain things that you just cannot replicate without doing it for real. There's nuances to cars at speed that you can't duplicate on a soundstage.
Tell me how the experience of working on Ford versus Ferrari is different than working on the Furious films.
It's very much grounded in reality. I think that's the most significant difference.
Yeah, the fantasy versus the reality.
Yeah, I mean, the Fast and Furious franchise lives in a different universe. And,
Indeed.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing that too.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I enjoy speaking with you guys.